So when Ms. Lagarde takes office, she'll do so next month, 1st November. She certainly has a lot of time to, ease further. We don't think there's going to be further easing moves because, as we have seen between September's meeting and tonight, there's a lot of, division between the council. So I don't think there's going to be fresh easing measures. Plus, the new QE, second tranche of QE is going to kickstart later this year. So plenty of room for her to take stock and not do any fresh moves. But nonetheless, I think more importantly, the guidance will continue to remain dovish. So in that extent, I think she's going to just take over from dovish Draghi to dovish Ms. Lagarde.
She'll obviously have to deal with these dissenters when it comes to the QE program. How do you anticipate that she'll do that? Of course, she's been the head of the IMF, so diplomacy is, of course, I guess, one of her strong points. But do you see that potentially being an issue for her going forward?
Certainly not. I think the first agenda would be to bring the council closer. So I think insofar that's concerned, they might try to tie the QE down to, okay, if there's a turnaround in growth, I think there is time to normalize policy. So it could be 1 year from now, it could be 1.5 years from now. So that will certainly be agenda number one. And to bring everyone on the level playing field, though we don't expect any rate hikes, so to speak, to make the rates next negative. I think the only help she can offer is not make things worse by acting. And I think the data, this policy action that was taken in September, we need to recollect, is actually preemptive. So growth slowdown is beginning to show now, and some beyond the ECB's control, because most of the risks are external. So I think wait and watch would be one. And the secondly is to bring the council closer, more discussion on possibly putting up some, tying down the QE timeline to potential improvement in growth, probably about a year plus from now.
Okay, Hadley has a question for you.
Radhika, it's Hadley out in Abu Dhabi. Speaking of that kind of timeline, I'm fascinated by the idea of extraordinary stimulus and the all-knowing power of these central bankers. I just spent the last week in Lebanon, where really that's a country that over the last 30 years has managed to continue to kick the can down the road as a result of the wiliness of their central bank governor. But I have to ask you, in terms of that timeline and what happens next, how do you see what's happening more globally impacting these central bankers' decisions? And I'm not just talking about what's happening in Europe with Brexit, but also German growth, President Trump, what's happening in Turkey. I mean, how do you see that impacting decisions going forward?
For global central banks, I think the past 8-9 months has been whirlwind. As of late 2018, we were still talking about the Fed hiking further, or rather in October 2018, and you're talking about ECB, the timeline of when they would potentially normalize rates or make rates less negative. And here we are, where with Fed has already cut twice, and then ECB is restarting QE. So I think the action impulse for the global central banks is to be preemptive and in anticipation of growth risks. And I think that is something different between now and back in the global financial crisis, perhaps. And the second aspect is that because most of the central banks are now near their monetary policy, closest to being towards the end, the second leg of support needs to kick in, which is not only monetary policy, but the fiscal side of the story also helps. So insofar as Eurozone is concerned, I think all eyes will be on Germany. It looks like the Bundesbank has almost confirmed a 3Q recession, so which that means that fiscal stimulus will have a good amount of backing. And given that Germany is among the few countries in the region which has the room to fiscally stimulate, certainly the pressure is going to grow in 2020. So it's going to be monetary to fiscal policy.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now, to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.